There is a ring that once sat on the finger of the most photographed woman in the world. A deep blue sapphire, 12 carats, surrounded by 14 diamonds, set in white gold. Princess Diana wore it the day she said yes to a prince who would later break her heart. Now that ring belongs to Catherine, Princess of Wales, and Prince William placed it on her finger himself, calling it the most personal thing he could give. But the sapphire ring is only one piece of a story that goes much deeper. Behind the polished walls of Buckingham Palace, a war has been quietly fought for years over the jewels Diana left behind. Who gets to wear them? Who controls them? And what it means when a woman who was never supposed to exist in Diana's story is now seen wearing her pearls. That war came to a head in the summer of 2025, and what happened next shook the royal family to its core. Princess Diana died in August 1997, but the conversations about what she left behind have never really ended. Her legacy is enormous, not just in terms of the charitable work she started, the lives she touched, or the way she changed public understanding of mental health and compassion. Her physical legacy, the jewels and personal items she wore and loved, has become one of the most closely watched and fiercely debated topics in royal circles. Every time a member of the royal family is photographed wearing something that once belonged to her, the internet notices. And every time Queen Camilla is the one wearing it, the reaction is something else entirely. The British royal family's jewelry collection is not simple to understand. It is not like a regular family inheritance where a mother's things are divided among her children when she dies. The royal collection, the vast treasury of crowns, tiaras, necklaces, brooches, bracelets, and rings accumulated over centuries of monarchy, belongs in most cases not to the individual who wears it, but to the crown itself. That means it passes down through the line of succession, from monarch to monarch, and the reigning king or queen decides who wears what and when. Diana herself wore pieces that belonged to the collection, not personally to her. When she died, those pieces did not automatically go to her sons. They returned to the vault and eventually came under the authority of Queen Elizabeth, and later King Charles and Queen Camilla. Diana did, however, personally own certain jewels, gifts she received privately, pieces she bought herself, items she was given outside the formal collection. These personal pieces she left to her sons, William and Harry, with the specific hope that they would one day give them to the women they loved. That is exactly what happened. William kept his mother's iconic sapphire and diamond engagement ring and used it to propose to Kate Middleton in Kenya in October 2010. When he placed it on her finger and they announced their engagement to the world, he told reporters that it was his mother's ring, and it felt very special, a way of making sure his mother did not miss out on that important day. Harry inherited a gold Cartier watch that Diana had loved, and later gave Meghan Markle Diana's aquamarine cocktail ring to wear at their wedding reception in 2018. But the personal collection was only part of what Diana wore during her lifetime. Many of the most famous pieces photographed on her, the tiaras she wore to state banquets, the pearl drop earrings, the sapphire suite that made her look like royalty even when she was standing in a hospital ward, were part of the royal collection. And when she was gone, those pieces stayed in the vault, available to whoever the palace decided should wear them. That decision ultimately passed to Queen Elizabeth first, and now to King Charles and Queen Camilla. In 2022, royal watchers noticed something that made many people deeply uncomfortable. Queen Camilla was photographed wearing a pearl choker that royal jewelry historians recognized as a piece Diana had worn frequently and publicly. The choker had been altered, redesigned to fit Camilla's style and preference, but the origin of the piece was clear to those who knew their royal jewelry history. The public reaction was immediate and fierce. For many Diana fans around the world, seeing Camilla wear something so closely associated with Diana felt like a final insult, a symbol of everything that had gone wrong in that marriage, of all the pain Diana had suffered, now erased and repurposed. The phrase people kept using was that it felt disrespectful, even desecrating. Experts, however, offered a more complicated picture. Helen Dimmock, a British jewelry specialist who was consulted at the time, explained that the palace's decision to allow Camilla to wear royal collection pieces, including those associated with Diana, was not necessarily personal or vindictive. It was a matter of royal protocol and practicality. Jewelry in the royal collection exists to be worn at official functions, and the reigning queen consort is expected to appear in jewels that reflect the dignity of the crown. Leaving significant pieces in a vault because of their emotional associations is not how the monarchy has traditionally operated. The collection is a living institution, not a museum of grief. That explanation has never fully satisfied the public, and it has never fully satisfied Prince William either. Sources close to William have consistently indicated over the years that he is intensely protective of his mother's memory and deeply sensitive to anything that feels like her legacy being diminished or absorbed into the narrative of the woman who, in his mind, contributed to her unhappiness. William was a 15-year-old boy when his mother died. He carried her coffin as a child. He has spent his entire adult life balancing his public role as a future king with his private grief as a son who lost his mother far too young. Those two things, the duty and the love, pull against each other every time the subject of Diana's jewelry comes up. The tension broke into the open dramatically in June 2026 at the wedding of Peter Phillips, King Charles's nephew and Princess Anne's son, to pediatric nurse Harriet Sperling. Peter and Harriet had been together for some time, and the wedding was a family celebration at which most of the senior royals were expected to attend. As weddings go, it was not the most prominent royal event of the year, but it was personal and meaningful, particularly to Princess Anne and to William, who has always been close to his cousin. What happened before the ceremony became a story in itself. Harriet Sperling, like many women marrying into royal circles, had hoped to borrow a piece from the royal vault to wear on her wedding day. The tradition of brides in the extended royal family wearing a tiara or piece of jewelry from the collection is well established, a way of connecting the new member to the institution's history. According to sources cited by multiple publications including The Express and picked up by outlets like the Royal Observer, Harriet made a request to access pieces from the vault. Queen Camilla's office reportedly denied that request. The stated reason, according to an insider, was that Harriet did not come from an aristocratic background. She was a working nurse, not a member of the landed gentry, and therefore did not qualify under whatever protocol governed access to the vault's contents. When Princess Anne heard what had happened, she was furious. She had been looking forward to seeing her new daughter-in-law wear something meaningful on her wedding day, and the decision felt unnecessarily cold and exclusionary. Anne turned to William for help. And William, according to sources who spoke to both Radar Online and Closer magazine at the time, stepped in and challenged Camilla's ruling directly. He intervened on Harriet's behalf, arguing that as Peter's close family member and as the future king, he had every right to authorize access to the jewels for his cousin's bride. He overruled Camilla's office. The damage, however, was already done. By the time the dispute was resolved, Harriet had made arrangements of her own. She walked down the aisle wearing a headpiece from Pragnell, a respected British jeweler, rather than a piece from the royal vault. The borrowed jewels moment, the one Harriet and Peter had imagined, never happened. What William's intervention did accomplish was something more significant than any tiara. It made clear in front of the extended royal family that there was a genuine and serious conflict of authority at the heart of the palace over who had the right to make decisions about the crown's jewelry. Camilla's reaction to being overruled was not gracious. Sources told Closer that even after the wedding, she remained angry, accusing William of deliberately undermining her authority and breaking royal protocol. She felt that his intervention was not simply about Harriet's wedding tiara. It was a power move, a statement that William did not recognize her authority in certain domains of palace life. William, for his part, reportedly did not deny that he had stepped in. His position was straightforward. His cousin was getting married, the bride had been refused access to something she was entitled to, and he used his standing to fix it. He did not see it as undermining Camilla. He saw it as protecting his family. But those who know the royal family understand that the tiara dispute was never really about a tiara. It was the visible surface of something much older and more painful. William has never fully accepted Camilla's place in his life or in his father's household. He has learned over many years and with considerable effort to be civil and to function professionally alongside her. He has accepted the reality of his father's marriage, but acceptance and warmth are different things. And when it comes to anything touching his mother's memory, her possessions, her legacy, her name, William's civility has a hard edge to it that does not bend easily. The question of who controls the Diana-adjacent pieces in the royal collection is not one that has been formally resolved by any court or formal legal body. There is no verdict in the traditional sense, no judge's ruling, no signed agreement, no legally binding document that says exactly which pieces belong to whom and who may authorize their use. What exists instead is a layered system of royal protocol, informal palace authority, and the broader legal framework governing the royal collection, a framework that makes the reigning monarch and his or her consort the central figures in any decision about the collection's use. Under current arrangements, that means Camilla, as queen consort, has significant say over how pieces in the collection are deployed at official functions. William, as Prince of Wales, has his own standing and his own ability to speak on behalf of the extended family. The two authority structures overlap in places, and when they come into conflict, as they did over Harriet's wedding tiara, there is no clean protocol for resolving the dispute. It gets resolved through personality, through rank, and sometimes through the kind of open confrontation that happened in June 2026. What is clear, and what has been clear for some time to those watching closely, is that as Charles's health becomes an increasing subject of public concern, William's authority within the palace is growing. He is not yet king, but he is the future king, and everyone in the palace knows it. The decisions being made now about jewelry, about access, about who speaks for the family's most sensitive legacies, those decisions will eventually be his to make entirely, without the need to challenge anyone else's ruling. For the millions of people around the world who still love Diana, who grew up watching her, who wept when she died, who have followed every development in her sons' lives as a way of staying connected to her, the sapphire jewels remain the most emotional thread in this story. They represent something that cannot be quantified in legal terms. A mother's love passed down through objects, a woman's life distilled into stones and metal. The sapphire ring on Catherine's finger is the most visible and most famous piece of that inheritance. But it is not the only one, and as long as pieces from Diana's life continue to circulate through the palace, worn, altered, lent, refused, fought over, the story will not end. William will make sure of that. He was 15 when he lost her. He is now a grown man with his own children, his own marriage, his own approaching destiny as king. But in the rooms where these decisions are made, in the palace corridors where Camilla's office sends its rulings, and where royal protocol is enforced like an unwritten constitution, William is still, in some fundamental way, the boy who carried his mother's coffin and never forgot what it cost him. That is the thing no legal verdict can address and no royal protocol can resolve. And it is the thing that will keep shaping every decision he makes for the rest of his life.